As we start our next panel discussion, I request you to please be seated. Thank you so much, where we are talking about our topic that is emerging and brand transformation. For this session, ladies and gentlemen, please join me as I invite on stage our moderator, Mr. Siju Narayan, CEO, RexEmptor Consult LLP. Let's give a huge round of applause. A very good afternoon to you, sir. Our speakers for this session, ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. Abhijit Anand, founder and CEO Abcoffee. We have Mr. Naga Chandra Prabhu, co-founder Bliss Ventures Private Limited. Mr. Vibhanshu Mishra, founder Chalu Chinese. Mr. Bhatia, founder House of Candy. Amit, Bagga, co-founder and CEO Daryaganj. Marchant, co-founder Good Flippin Food Private Limited. And we have Kunal R. Bharadwaj, founder Sociometrik. Well, I can already see a great twinning here in this panelist. Going to be fun. Let's give a huge round of applause once again to our moderator and speaker. So, Mr. Narayan, over to you. Thank you so much.
Oh, can you guys hear me clearly? Yes? No? Perfect. Good afternoon. Please. अरे यार गुड आफ्टरनून तो बोल दो. 1 घंटा लग गया 5 किलोमीटर कवर करने में मुंबई में. Right? So nothing strange about it. So, tell me something. How many of you are married here? That's it? See, whatever happens here will stay here. Will not go out of this room, right? So, how many of you are married? Once more. Kids? No, please keep it up. Please keep the hands up. Kids? 2 kids? You? Okay. So, tell me, sir. When it comes to choice of clothes, how homogeneous is your family? I mean, do you all settle on the same kinds of clothes, same kinds of stores?
I think it depends on, the choices are to the kids level right now, because if I select a cloth, they say, no, dad, I don't like it. You're old fashioned right now. That's what they say. And we probably go to a brand which is affordable, comfortable for them, and then local brand is what somebody would love to wear, and it is easy, accessible everywhere, is what we do.
Okay, and I'm sure your kids are about 10, 12 years of age, or? Okay, by the time they're 20 and 16 like I have, you don't even have to bother about it, okay? What about food?
Food, I think majorly outside, Swiggy, Zomato was helping me right now, is what I would.
In terms of the mix?
Majorly biryani is what they love to have.
You?
I would love to have dal khichdi.
Wife?
Wife will mutton biryani.
Okay.
That's what.
Thank you. Can I have one more? One more? Yes, sir. Food choices. How?
Kids? Yes. Mostly your chicken popcorn is very famous with the kids, because they don't want that hassle of deboning the product and eating. So that is one thing very, very, very liked after product. Then yes, your noodles are the most fast running options with the kids, because rice is at home. They don't want to see rice again. So that is there. And in clothing, my kids are 7 and 8, so mostly we are on online as of now. We have still not started doing offline shopping for them. So that is what is the present status.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So if I were to ask, right, between clothing, food, and let's say entertainment, which category do you think has the maximum heterogeneity within the family? I heard food. Food. Next. Entertainment. And the third, right? Clothing. So what I was trying to establish is, and this was not rigged, okay, this was on the spot. clearly trying to establish that in a family of 4, if there is heterogeneity in a category like food, which is the maximum heterogeneity, imagine the heterogeneity across the nation. And in India, where I personally believe, and I do a lot of driving from Mumbai to Bangalore to Trivandrum and all over, the food choices, the type of food changes every 100 kilometers or even lesser, right? So to operate in such a scenario where there is such a dynamic element to the business takes guts. Ladies and gentlemen, please give these brave hearts another round of applause. That's exactly what they're doing, right? In a very, very tough, business scenario, they're literally getting you some of the finest stuff, right? And I know we are standing between, you and lunch. And if I had my way, we would have burgers, we would have dal makhani butter chicken, and we'll have coffee and tea served here, right here, right? So, okay, that's why I decided to take this slightly longish approach to introducing the folks out here. Now, you're in for a treat. Now, you're in for a treat because if you look at the cross-section of people out here, we have beverages, we have fine dining, there's sweets, while I'm sure Sameer, a lot of parents would be thinking, yaar, why sweets here? बहुत मुश्किल से बच्चों को उसे दूर रख रहे हैं, right? But then he's doing a fantastic job with House of Candy. Then you have food, and then you have a person who represents a company that helps get all of this together, in the sense that it helps all the other people out here decide where to open a store, and on the basis of what should they open up a store, and that's Kunal out there, right? So. Okay, now the way we will do this is, while we will talk about a few things around the food palettes and the business per se, I would appreciate questions from you. Okay, let's make it a two-way talk. It's as such a very small, cozy audience, so let's make it a two-way talk, and we will make sure that it is interactive. Okay, and you don't have to be nice. Okay, so it's just that don't have product, or service complaints. We'll address that later. Now, just a quick introduction to folks. This gentleman sitting to my left moved from drilling oil to brewing coffee. Right? He spent a career in Schlumberger, and I actually ran out of time to kind of assimilate his education. Right? He's got a bachelor's in petroleum, diploma in law, master's in political marketing, and now he wants to democratize specialty coffee in India. That's Abhijit of Abcoffee. Prabhu is a food veteran. He's worked with Wow Momos, JSM Corporation, which handles Hard Rock Cafe, Shiro, and CPK, California Pizza Kitchen. And he's a brave man. He is trying to popularize chai in coffee territory, South India. Right? So that's him. Then Vibhanshu. Thanks to Vibhanshu, I learned a term called alcohol sommelier. Okay? Now, you can give me a round of applause for pronouncing sommelier right, because it's a tough one, it's French. And probably, you can catch him on the sidelines and understand what it's all about. And he's worked with Tim Hortons, and right now he manages about 200 plus outlets as part of Chalu Chinese. And I'm sure extremely tasty stuff. Then the Candyman, Mr. Samir Bhatia. He's come from a banking, private wealth management background, right? And now he's treating the people of this country to some lovely candy. That's Samir. Amit, so next time when you hear butter chicken or, dal makhani, think Daryaganj, then think Amit. Right? So he is the one who runs it. Then we get to burgers. Again, I learned a term called Q grader. Anyone knows what a coffee Q grader is? Honestly, I feel so, You could have not raised your hand. It's okay. So I learned about what it takes to be a coffee Q grader, and maybe I should ask Sid. So Sid represents Good Flipping Burgers, and apparently extremely tasty burgers. So Q graders are for Arabica?
Yeah.
Only?
That's Arabica, yes.
Since you know what a Q grader is, are you from his company? No. Okay. What is a similar one for Robusta coffee? I got you there. What's a similar one for Robusta coffee? So in Arabica, for Arabica coffee, you have Q grader. That's a stage that you reach. For Robusta? Sorry? Are there Robusta Q graders?
I am not sure.
From what I know, it is R grader, but then that's knowledge of one day. Okay, so I'll go back and research again. Right, and finally we have Kunal. Like I said, he is a data science, consumer insights, geospatial analytics, location intelligence expert. Right, so if you are there at the right place at the right time, you can blame him. Right, so that's a panel that we have, and. Gentlemen, what I would like to know is, we are talking of trends, we are talking of how things have changed over a period of time. How has the Indian palate really changed? Or has it really changed? Or is it an idea being just forced upon us? Why don't I start with you?
We are doing coffee, except south of India, chai is the most palatable beverage that was so called of when we started Abcoffee. So we Indians, except South India where filter coffee used to be a thing and where coffee used to be a thing, the rest of India used to drink tea. I come from East India where the best coffee version I knew was in winter sprinkling instant coffee on top of my tea to get a flavor of coffee, and I used to hate it because that's how instant coffee used to taste. Right? So, but over the years, and this is before I started Abcoffee and before the Abcoffee revolution hit India, I realized there was a huge change in consumer behavior moving towards how we perceive beverages, thanks to a lot of things that happened in the last 5 years. COVID, not a big fan of what happened with COVID, but what COVID did is it got people stuck to home and watching television, Netflix, Prime, Hotstar, and a lot of people started going into what happens in the Western world and how coffee as a beverage impacts lifestyle. Now, if you look at, and because you said you have a 20-year-old kid, I'll have a reservation because probably you're from south of India. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've been all around. I don't
okay,
know
all
where
around.
I'm from.
Otherwise, if you talk around to a 20-year-old kid around India and you ask them what they drink, they're die-hard coffee first people. There is a entire gentry of people moving towards this particular beverage. I think what has evolved as a country in India is that it's not about a decision, and I think that's a beverage kind of thought process I'll let the food experts talk about and dessert experts talk about the other aspect, is that now people are moving towards is either tea or coffee to figuring out maybe I'm a chai person, I drink tea in the morning and I'll finish by coffee in the evening, or I'm a coffee person in the morning and I'll finish tea with the family, right? So I think this acceptability factor has improved. People have now become more palatable to the international or global beverage. And number three, I see a huge impact of health consciousness coming in terms of the choice of beverage that people drink in. So now, 2 years back, while people may not have measured sugar in their coffees or beverages or drinks, now people are conscious about it. So I think this is a positive trend I have seen people moving towards on the palate and also on the beverage type.
That's a nice bit of insight, Abhijit, into the beverages part of it. Amit, when it comes to food, dal makhani has always been dal makhani ever since you guys started it, right?
Yes.
Has there been a change in the way India is perceiving food?
Yes, so something very interesting I would like to share. So when, I'll give a little background to it. So my friend Raghav and me started this brand Daryaganj together, and his grandfather was the inventor of butter chicken and dal makhani, the two most popular dishes, Indian dishes in the world, I can say. So the story is this: his grandfather came from Peshawar in 1930s, used to work in a restaurant there. Then he came to Delhi, the new Delhi which was formed, New Delhi after the partition of India. And here he opened a restaurant where he started making tandoori chicken. The tandoori chicken came from Peshawar as a concept because the Hindus who lived in Peshawar used to consume more of meat there, and they had an Afghan influence as well in Peshawar. So that's why those grilling the meats and the tandoor concept came from there. So there was no butter chicken dal makhani till that time. When they came to Delhi, and when they wanted to, then they opened the restaurant there in an area called Daryaganj. So that's where one day dal makhani was invented, where it was another improvised version of what we used to call maki dal. In Punjab, there's a very famous maki dal. It was made into a restaurant format. It was improvised, but it was made on cooked on the tandoor. some white butter was added. So I mean, a lot of different things were done to that dish. It evolved to become a dal makhani. Then butter chicken also was just a dish which was invented by, with tandoori chicken and cooked in a with fresh tomatoes. So now coming to 7, 8 years back, when before the 6 years back, when before we were starting Daryaganj, what I realized that the food of this generation, 1940s food has evolved a lot. What evolved was every decade, every generation of chefs will come and do some change to it. And they would want to have a faster way to do things, so that, you don't have to cook everything from fresh, from scratch. So what happened over a period of time, so there were no grinders, mixer grinders in 1947. So the butter chicken gravy, the curry, was not that smooth and velvety like we have butter chicken today. It was very, little coarse. That's how it is. Our butter chicken is, by the way. And so there was no packets of cream available to just put into there were no tomato purees available in 1947. So all of these things were not available, the processed stuff. So everything was cooked fresh and with fresh, good ingredients, So I said, now, for me, it will be a big challenge to change the whole thing now. Now I go back to the same, concept in 1940s and 50s where food was being cooked fresh. So when we're doing a food trial, we told our team, remove everything which is not available in 1947. So let's cook it the way it would have been cooked that time. So we use fresh tomatoes every day at the restaurant. We don't use tomato puree. It's tough, but we found a manufacturer who gives us the exact same type of tomatoes all through the year. So we have made that, effort to do that. And then even the butter, it's like, we put a white butter which is freshly churned. So a lot of things we do which are, which, keep that taste as fresh as possible and, as good as possible. But also, at the same time, so I think that taste was finally very well accepted. When we started the restaurant, Touchwood, we are now all reaching about 17-year outlets and, and at a very good stage where all our outlets have been successful. Touchwood, we never shut any outlet and every outlet is successfully running. So people have accepted it well. I think it was a welcome change for people to have a different taste where the food tastes good but doesn't feel very heavy on your palate. So what was happening with the people putting too much of processed cream, putting too much of spices which were not required. The best of food is made with the least of ingredients. So I think, and you will be surprised to know the biggest, percentage of customers in our restaurant are kids, 8 to 14, 13, 14-year-old kids love our food because it's not too spicy. It's also they like the taste and so that's been quite a change I feel now that people are wanting to have food which tastes good, but at the same time it's not going to be too heavy on your palate as well. And I think the taste good if you put pure and good ingredients. I think the taste will always come out better and you will feel better after it. And by the same time, I also know there are challenges to do that. So it's like, so we are trying to solve that problem to keep a balance between that fresh taste and also keeping the consistency. So yeah.
Yeah, so what clearly comes out is one common factor between what you mentioned, Abhijit, and what you're mentioning, Amit, is the focus on health, right? Now, and that being a very, very prominent factor in terms of consumer behavior. Sid, when it comes down to health, how do you marry burger and health?
We don't.
You can't. In India, people perceive healthy food as not tasty.
Yeah, I have a slightly different opinion on this. I think health is a misconceived kind of notion when it comes to everything, food, lifestyle. When we did some of the calorie checks as per the FSSAI, when they introduced it, both at Starbucks and at Good Flippin, the team was nervous. Oh, seeing these calories, are people going to order less? I think nothing changed, right? I think when people want to order food, they want to indulge. Unless they want to order healthy food, which then comes from a healthy food kitchen, right? I think examples in Mumbai could be like a kitchen garden, which only does health-based foods, or a salad, or a Bombay salad. I think health, again, we can get into the details of what healthy food is really. But I think healthy food, in my opinion, means good ingredients, right? And that is what you should focus on. Keep your calorie intake and outtake levels balanced, and you should be in a pretty good, get your good sleep, do your workouts, right? Play a sport, and that should keep you healthy. I eat a burger a week. I don't think I look unhealthy. And it's all about balance, right? We focus on the number one aspect of anything that, in my opinion, a food person should focus on is deliciousness, taste, and good ingredients is the second part. So yeah.
And how have you seen a change in the last 10 years from a consumer behavior aspect?
I think from a consumer behavior aspect, I always measure things as per my experiences and a few people around me, and then obviously you have the kids in the mix and stuff like that. I will talk about our generation first, which is more or less the millennial generation. I think the millennial generation was the generation that was kind of started to travel abroad, experience different things, and say, hey, we need this back home. And I don't think it's a coincidence that a lot of new age founders of food brands and beverage brands are millennials, because they were the ones who said, hey, we've experienced this abroad, why can't we do this back home?
Okay.
So I think that has happened.
So
whether it's
the exposure,
yeah, and when I say abroad, I don't only mean Western flavors, I mean Eastern flavors as well. Right? So whether it's Eastern, whether it's Western, we got it back. I think the generation before us took the international flavors and they Indianized it a lot, right, at that point of time, because people were less traveled at that point of time, so they didn't really know what an authentic Chinese or an authentic burger tasted like. I think the millennials kind of changed that. I think the Gen Zs are on another direction altogether, where they want to have new experiences, not only the flavors, but even experiences. And that's where I think very, very evolved cooking kind of comes into play. So I think, yes, I think it's a generational shift. It is nothing to do with just, Indians as a country evolving. It is, I think it's the demographics. I think it's traveling, having exposure, bringing that back home and saying, hey, we can do something similar. So I think it's based on that, and it's very exciting.
No, that's an excellent point. So we've got two factors now, health and exposure, international exposure, which gets me to you, Vibhanshu.
Hey, hello.
When it comes to exposure, and when someone says, I want to have the kind of food that I've had in the, let's say, in the West Coast, when they come back here, if you give them the same food, would they like it if you do it ditto or if you Indianize it?
See, when you talk about Indian market, our taste palette is very different from Western. What Gen Z, what he mentioned, right? Gen Z culture. What Gen Z believe nowadays is, if suppose they are having, we were talking about a previous discussion, we were talking about there's something called bagel belt or something called croissant belt, right? So that Western culture or Middle Eastern culture have launched 10 years back. But that's trend now coming in India, right? So when you talk about Gen Z people, whatever they see internationally, they want to copy paste in India. Ingredients is the toughest part to get in India. Freshness is the toughest part to get in India. Any food which we are launching, like there is a dish called poutine, which is it's a national dish of Canada, right? There are a lot of versions of poutine in India. Generally, cheese curds are not easily available in India, right? So what people do, they play with mozzarella. None of the Western dish can be properly copy-paste in India because the taste bud varies. We are Indians. We will, like we were mentioning about healthier food side. We were mentioning about how to innovate food. Healthier side, Indian market ke liye, Indian crowd ke liye, that is just for a week. There are a lot of people sitting here. Okay, that's very true. That's for a week. Or if someone is really health conscious, like he mentioned that he eat burger a week and he's actually fit, right? It's depend upon how you are managing yourself. India mein to ek cheez matter karta hai, that is taste, right? And people are very much loyal towards their own cuisine. Pani puri khana hai, Haldiram jayenge. See, I'm not again. Pani puri khana hai, Haldiram jayenge. Haldiram is a big brand. They're giant. But do you think that pani is fresh? It's a packet thing, right? So anything in India, you have to, build as per Indian taste palette. Then only it's gonna survive. And new Gen Z culture, every day they want a new dish. And it's tough for India to innovate, right? You have to put your touch in it.
So why did you start Chalu Chinese?
See, Chalu is all about Indo-Chinese. The same street food. So I have done my IHM from Kolkata. I was 3 years there down the line. And Kolkata is famous for street food.
Oh, you bet.
Like the best street food you get in India, Kolkata. If you visit Kolkata, you'll get any Chinese wala selling chow mein. They call it chow mein, right? Chow mein for 20 rupees.
Yeah.
And trust me, I'm talking to you right now. I can feel what it tastes like, right? So, same, I wanted that street food taste to be in my Chalu Chinese, but in a more hygiene way. I'm not, again I claim that we don't use any Ajinomoto, we don't use any palm oil, we don't use any color, which is true. We don't use it. But then, Chalu Chinese is all about Indo-Chinese. Any dish which you see in my menu, go to China, you'll not get any dish there. Nothing, right? So I had got a dish called Gazab Ka Seena. The name itself, any brand, like I got 3 brands with me. One is Chalu Chinese. Anyone, aap kabhi bhi even you listen about Chalu. Chalu is a different name.
Correct.
So, that's what. So,
That's interesting, and obviously that's where the Indianization
exactly.
of the range comes into picture, and which is why I picked you up. For
Chili
this.
chicken, like any Chinese restaurant, if you go and eat chili chicken, that's an Indian chili chicken. There's nothing called chili chicken in China or nothing called chili chicken in Burmese or Malaysia, right? So whatever we do, like he's the owner of Abcoffee, right? Indian market they are now understanding what is coffee. Coffee meant Nescafe. 5-5 saal pehle, if you go and talk to people, like a lot of people when you talk here, for them coffee is brew and Nescafe. Brewing, Q grading, R grading, Abcoffee, Tim Hortons, Starbucks, when he were working in Starbucks, right? Starbucks is a status. It's a status, right? So that's how India works.
So Samir, that's all
I'll just
about.
add here
Yeah,
one thing,
sure.
if you allow me to comment on him, right? So, 2012 I went to China, not 2013, and I was trying to find the Indian Chinese that I used to have. Trust me, I went entire 4 hours on the high street. I couldn't find a single dish that I had all my life.
Give Vibhanshu 3 more. Give Vibhanshu 3 more years, and you'll probably find an outlet there.
No, you will soon find in Canada and Dubai by end of this year.
Excellent.
So,
So China is not very far away. Samir, when it comes to candy, now that's a very special category, right? It's either for festivities, right? Ya kuch meetha ho jaye, or once in a week, kind of a mandated by mom of the house, once in a week kind of a thing. I'm sure the reason why you brought this up as an enterprise is because you've figured out that there's been a shift in the way a consumer behaves as far as this particular category is concerned. Could you take us through that?
Yeah, so Siju, you'd be really surprised that it's not a festive and it's not an occasional based anymore. And that is why, so it's a 10-year-old brand. And that is why from the day we started, we've been getting a very good response from across the market, wherever we open. Same as what Amit said, we've never had to close down a single outlet because it is absolutely throughout the year. So we are largely a mall-based, so it's like if everyone's there, the whole family's there, the father does a little bit of shopping, the mother does a little bit of shopping. What's there for the kids? It's either entertainment of FEC, like a hangout or a fun city and so forth. And then there's sweets. And in the sweets, we are perfectly fitting ourselves over there. And that is why till today we have not, it's been, so we are at 250 outlets, exclusive brand outlets across the country and growing. And that's why from all the mall spaces, we still get a reverse inquiry that we want a house of candy over here.
So obviously there's a novelty factor, but do you also ascribe your success partly to what Sid mentioned in terms of exposure that this generation had in terms of various kind of formats and various kind of categories?
Yes, absolutely. The well-traveled individual who's gone abroad, who's gone out, who's seen this concept, who's seen there, and plus we offer all a very wide range, about 50 to 60 varieties under one price point. So if you were to take that same 1 or 2 varieties and go to the supermarket, try to get that, you'll have to get one consumer pack for each one of those, SKUs. But here we're getting under one price point, you can have a very wide range, you can have like multiple of them, rather than getting 5-6 consumer packs of every variety, so that definitely helps.
And then how do you measure yourself on the health axis? Sid was very vociferous in saying that health is on one side, it's about taste and it's about the rest of the other things that you can do in terms of staying healthy, not just the food.
I would absolutely agree. If you want healthy, you know, they will go for a healthier alternative, you know, and plus it's not all the candies which are to be consumed all at once. You know, a bag of candies is not typically consumed all at once. It's over a period of time, you know, and plus this is what the market demands. This is where we see we are all slaves to the numbers, you know, because there's a reverse demand. We are here, all of us, because there's a requirement, there's a gap. We are just trying to fulfill, you know, that gap. And but yeah, if you want something really healthy, you'd go to in the North Bay, like a salad story or a Subway or so forth.
Sure.
You know, and that's why the Cokes of the world, the McDonald's, the Domino's, they're still existing and they're thriving. You know, so it is an indulgent factor at the end of the day. You cannot literally keep working out and focusing on health like 24/7. So it is, you know, also the indulgent factor there.
Perfect. And Prabhu, you are literally the youngest kid on the block.
Thank you.
Right, when it comes to the brand that you represent. So what prompted you? So was it a change in the way the consumers were looking at stuff, or what was it?
See, from last 10 years, if you see, the Indian palate, people's, completely changed. They need a very hygiene, a fresh food. They don't now, mind paying something extra for that. So that is the reason, all our products is freshly made in my brand. You order a chai, it is freshly made as per the order and delivered. I have seen, so many brands, unorganized sectors, the F&B unorganized sectors become an organized sector. For example, if you talk, my ex-Wow Momos, being in a Momo and unorganized sector, Mr. Sagar has brought that into a very organized sector. If you talk about Vada Pav, Samosa, it's a mass products which the brand made very hygiene and a available product in the market. So that is what we thought, there is a gap in, mass tea products. So we thought, okay, let's build a tea brand which will go and reach the mass people, which will, give a best products to the consumer on a budget-friendly way.
Perfect. So, the sense that I get is there are multiple factors that come into play when we see the current, let's say the network of food choices that we have. Health being one, exposure, international exposure, larger exposure. Obviously, digital content helps as well, right? Then the third was about fresh food. A live counter is very exciting for a lot of people these days. And last but not the least, it's in terms of the ability to convert a few categories from being purely unorganized to seemingly organized, or at least get onto that path. So four good factors. Kind of gets me to a point wherein I think we should coin something called as responsible eating, right? Because I mean, you can eat, but then you need to burn it out as well.
I think I just wanted to kind of make a point so that I'm not, I didn't come across as brazen. My point was that everybody's looking for authentic experiences.
Right.
I think there is an authentic experience called Indo-Chinese, right? I crave an American chop suey once in 3 months, right? It's like one of the most unhealthiest dishes, so-called, to speak, but it takes me back. It's nostalgia for me,
True.
right? I crave a cup of adrak wali chai, right, once a month, and that is for me, like, I want the proper one with the right amount of adrak in it, with lots of sugar, with very, very, very milky. So it's not only about saying, hey, we should authenticate it by having just an international exposure. Anything like Daryaganj, for example. Again, it's authenticity that speaks.
True.
So finally, coming back to it, I think what I was trying to say is that whatever we're trying to create in terms of product, I think authenticity is the main thing. And authentic can be something that was created. Indo-Chinese is a cuisine that was created in India, right? And now it has a worldwide market. I've seen some stores launch in Dubai. I've seen versions of it go abroad to the US even. So I think there's a market for all of that. And I think as long as you're focused on creating delicious, authentic products and specialized products, because now there's just so much choice, right? You cannot say, oh, I want to sell a burger and a pizza and this and that and this under the, something is going to suffer somewhere, and the customer is going to be judging you and saying, hey, you're unfocused. That whole concept of going to a restaurant and ordering Chinese, Indian, Italian, everything is now out of the window. There are very few restaurants that survive like that. So it's about authenticity, it's about specialization, and it's about using the right ingredients.
No, absolutely.
That was the point I was trying to
Hear
make.
you loud and clear, Sid. You're absolutely right when you said that. And you talked about authentic experience, right? Now, while you used the core word out there was authenticity, I would like to focus on the experience part of it now. And that's primarily because we've come to believe that when it comes to customer behavior, one factor that's been on a hockey stick curve is the experience piece. And this is across categories, right? Be it footwear, be it clothes, be it just about anything. Food can't be any different. Do you see customer experience in terms of them eating, in terms of them seeing the food being prepared, or in terms of them being told about the history of the ingredients that go into the food? Do you think that makes sense? Yeah, Amit.
Yes. So, yes, one thing I would like to say that, very rightly, very rightly presented here was that authenticity, So like I was giving example that day, when butter chicken was invented in 1947, it was not an authentic dish. It was just a dish you could have called modern Indian that time. So today, there might be a dish which is avocado golgappa, will become a classic 50 years later. So everything is, there's no, actually, how do you define authentic, that ways. In fact, Indo-Chinese cuisine, some people look down upon it. I love it. And I personally love Indo-Chinese cuisine. I love the chili chicken, the Manchurian. And I said, celebrate it. It's a cuisine. The way it was done, and if it's done right, the way it was done, it is authentic. Exactly. And so it's a completely different cuisine. So that same ways. And coming back to your question about customer experience. So few changes which I'll tell you one thing about it's very relevant for everyone here. It's a retail conference here. So what I realized that we are, as a restaurant industry, very lucky to have opportunity to touch all the 5 senses of every guest who comes in to the restaurant. Because everywhere in the other retail segments, we might not have the sense of taste. We have everything, 5 senses. We have the opportunity. So when like in Daryaganj also, when I was conceptualizing it, I said, okay, when someone comes into the restaurant and about to enter the restaurant, how do you catch him? When we all go to places and come back and say, oh, that vibe was very good, or vibe was not good. What is a vibe? You decode it. It's the 5 senses, what the guest is feeling. Correct. So first thing is what they have already perceived about you before coming to the restaurant. Then the moment they enter, so what they see around, like you were saying. So we have, as Daryaganj, have made an open kitchen now. So we show open kitchen. People feel very comfortable seeing that all the guests, all the food is being cooked right there behind the glass. And everything is there, in front of you. So, and then the team also inside is feeling good. They are interacting with guests. They are more alert. Yeah. Sure. So, interiors, what you see, the lighting, like we make a warm interior to make it more approachable. So all of these, what you see around, the colors, everything, that's what the customer is seeing. Then when they sit down on the table, whatever the touch, the table, how the table feels, it could be wood, it could be stone, it could be whatever. You just try to make a experience out of it there. Touch is even how the guest is spoken to by the server or whoever's they're interacting with them. Then, like we as Daryaganj especially developed a lot of crockery, cutlery, mix of modern and Indian. So just to give a feel of that, we have mix of both, And interior also has a mix of retro elements, contemporary elements. Then we developed a fragrance, special fragrance, which, when you enter that, the same fragrance in every Daryaganj restaurant, which is a mix of, again, Indian nargisi flower and a mix of...
He's letting out a lot of secrets, huh?
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, it's open. It's open. I like to share my knowledge, So whatever it's a mix of, a Indian flower and another note. So that is the fragrance. Also gives you a nice, positive feel. Then even the music was very carefully selected by me. What the guest is going to hear. So I have all generations coming in. So maybe the music, the sound has to be, approachable. So it was a live singing and sung by newer artists. The lyrics for old. And yeah. And obviously the last, the sense of taste. The food tastes, presented well, contemporary, but the taste is authentic. Takes you back, makes you nostalgic, or maybe it's the people who come in, who have not tasted it before, they feel good tasting it. Sure. So, a mix of 5 senses is what makes your customer experience. No, so I think that's the most important.
No, excellent. I think that's a wonderful point. And I guess irrespective of the category that you folks are in, I think 5 senses, making sure...
it's in Indian hospitality.
Sorry to cut you, we even made a 5 senses delivery. So when someone is delivering, okay, we got up during COVID, the box is delivered. So you obviously see the colors, if you touch, you taste. There's a fragrance which comes out of the box, and then there's a QR code. You scan it, and it starts the music of the restaurant as well. So you can even touch the guest in the house as well.
It's like takeaway you're talking about?
It's a box. It's a takeaway box. We call it the 5 senses delivery box.
See, in Indian hospitality, when you talk about this, only what he mentioned. So your mind, your eyes, your nose, your mouth, and your tummy. That's what matter.
I know this is a very difficult conversation pre-lunch, right? I don't know. I'm feeling hungry here. I don't know about you guys.
So see, once you enter, that what he mentioned, once you enter any restaurant, the interior matters a lot. It matters. It does matter.
Absolutely.
Okay. And looks, how your restaurant is looking. How's the aroma? Like what he mentioned, he just like on his table and everywhere in Daryaganj, fresh flowers are there, right? Fresh, just for the fragrance and everything. Taste. And then your tummy. So, हम इंडियंस का एक चीज सबसे अच्छी चीज है, दो भूख होती है. एक होती है आँख की भूख, एक होती है पेट की भूख. ठीक है, पेट भर जाता, आँख नहीं भरता है. So ये 5 sense तो.
Kunal, I know you've been sitting here patiently listening, but I wanted this discussion to come to this logical point. They're talking of 5 senses, they're talking of lighting, they're talking of 2 kinds of bhook. But for these gentlemen to be successful and executing on these strategies, they should be at the right place. What's your thoughts on that? No, we can't hear you. Maybe you can just hand him another mic.
Yeah. So fundamentally, traditionally we've related food preferences, food choices to region. Like you said that every kilometer the cuisine changes. Having said that, as we are urbanizing, right, there are different factors that might drive food preferences, right? For instance, how we organize ourselves in urban cities, right? The way we move around workplaces. So imagine going from home to work and coming back, but having a stopover to like pick up your kid or meeting a friend. All of these factors, the way, the movement patterns, all of this might define your food preferences in different ways that may go beyond, like say, just taste or other sensory appeals, right? Which is why maybe concepts like grab-and-go coffee is taking off, right? Because of lack of time in urban centers. So this is something very important for us to understand that there'll be different factors now in India driving this. The other part is going to be is something exposure, right? I think Indians took about 3 crores trip last year abroad. So imagine the kind of exposure now they're getting in different parts. When it comes to location, I think what is important is to have a playbook around. All of you are food entrepreneurs and retailers, right? And all retailers think that they know where to open their next outlet, right? That's such a sort of, you feel very confident about your first outlet or next 10 and so on and so forth. But when we work with retailers, there's an feeling that all of the people at least we are working with, that they need to develop some sort of a playbook, right? When I say playbook, it starts with a few steps. The first step being to understand, first define whether your brand right now, is it a global brand or is it a local brand? What do I mean by that? All brands are evolving, right? Your brand can become from local to global. Does your brand appeal to a larger audiences which will attract people from further distances? Or is your brand going to appeal to local catchments, right? Once you define that, that first step is so important because you will define your catchment area for your particular store to drive store unit economics based on that decision, right? Because if you're looking at a local catchment, you're just looking at a drive time. You're saying, I only care about 30 people who reside in 30-minute drive time or who work in 30-minute drive time of this location. On the other hand, if you're looking at a global audience, you really want to understand what we call true catchment area, from where all people are actually coming to this particular location, right? So you can have an outlet. I'll give an example of Dhan Mill compound. It's a place in Delhi. It's nothing like Kamla Mills, which has a lot of high energy bars. But Dhan Mill is an area which is sort of becoming a den of experiential food places, right? Now, and it's in Chhatarpur. It's at the cusp of South Delhi and Gurgaon. And normally you would expect a lot of people would come from these areas. But in the last 6 months in our data, we've seen people coming from places like pockets in Punjabi Bagh, Rohini, right? Pockets in Noida, right? Now these people are actually traveling from all these places, and West Delhi audience, typically a person with full of bias like me will relate them with like North Indian food, right? Like, because you have great North Indian food options there. But even these people are actually traveling to the Dhanmil compound to have that experience, right? Which is why you can see, and which means places who exist at this location have a global appeal, right? As opposed to if you're opening a QSR chain, then you would want to look at the local catchment. Once you define your catchment, then you want to go and deep dive into socioeconomic, demographic, all your standard metrics. If you don't like an outlet here, or a location here, or a retail space here, this is the time to actually move on to other options. But if you like few places, then you want to understand consumer behavior of people who come here. So the idea is, and one retailer had really aptly put it for me when we were having a discussion. He's like, Kunal, right now I look at 4 locations and I close 1, right? As you build a scientific method of expanding your brands, you want to come from that ratio 4:1 to 3:1 to 2:1. The point is of not like that you're going to end up spending more, right? You'll end up spending more, but it's the entire sort of nuisance value you take away from a retail expansion strategy.
So Kunal, you help folks like these gentlemen, get the benefits of location intelligence better?
Exactly. Yes. By accessing a lot of data on people and places from external third-party data, which does not come from you, right? Which comes from other places, which Zomato won't give you.
Okay. Sid, you've opened about 400, 500 odd Starbucks outlets, right? Or you've been part of that process. So how important do you think location intelligence is to?
I've been part of that process. I've not opened it myself.
Sure.
I had the privilege of basically charting out the network planning piece for Starbucks about 3 or 4 years ago, when we were about 100 stores at that point of time. I think as you go deeper in India, it becomes an absolute necessity to have an understanding of your local catchment. I think anything above 100 store count after about 7 or 8 metros, because generally those 100 stores would come in the prime catchment areas where there are established footfalls, established sales, established malls, airports, highways, so on and so forth. So maybe the location intelligence, this is my opinion, doesn't matter so much then, but I think definitely after 100, when you want to dig deeper, maybe tier 1 cities, tier 2 cities, and when you want to dig deeper into the metros, when cannibalization comes into the play, local intelligence from your competitors comes into play. How are the catchment areas developing? Where the metro stations coming up? How is the city planning kind of evolving over a period of time? It becomes very, very important to have that kind of intelligence to then further expand.
Sure. Now, since time's up and the kind of screen is kind of screaming out loud, one last thing. We've all discussed in terms of what's good, what's nice to have, whatever you've done, which went to plan. If you were to tell the audience, what are those 1 or 2 things that they should never do if they are planning to step into the F&B space and, set up a brand and open outlets? Anyone?
First, check your pocket, how deep it is. The main actual thing is, if you got investment or if you are ready with the funding, do whatever you want to do. Initially, everyone nowadays, it's a fashion, it's a trend. Without getting depth into the business, people want to open restaurant, people want to get into food industry. It's not easy. There are big entrepreneurs sitting here, legacy, someone is following legacy, someone is doing really good. Check your pocket before get into any food industry, because what it's look like कि 10 lakh में 12 lakh में दुकान खुल जाएगा, but you have to keep 50 lakh aside.
Okay.
Only being confident.
So very, very, strong hold on finances. Amit, quickly.
So I would quickly like to say one thing. that, today, number one is thing is, don't think a cloud kitchen is a good entry point. I open a cloud kitchen and it will really give me a good start. It will be the toughest thing to do, even bigger, tougher than a CDR or a QSR or any segment. So cloud kitchen is the toughest business to do. The rate of failure is even higher than a restaurant, normal restaurant. Because, there is no way anyone's going to walk into your restaurant, cloud kitchen. You have to generate everything online and you're dependent on aggregators. You have to do your own logistics. So don't get into cloud kitchen. If you have to get into something, it has to be a bigger segment. And just to say one thing, this is a very tough industry. It looks glamorous, but very tough. And it is very, capital intensive. And you have to keep a very strong working capital. And now the point here is, if it's going to be very tough. So if you feel you just want to make money out of it, don't get into it. If you have a strong passion, only then do it, because money will follow that. But it will not be the other way around, that you want to make money so you'll get the passion to do it. No.
Got it. Anyone else? Quick.
But then also just one more thing, I would strongly, all the market dynamics, all market assessments, almost every planning, when you come to the real world, fails. My still advice or my still strong word would be, if there's an idea, something, you have to go execute it. Till the time you don't do it, there are many locations where we think, wow, this is fantastic. By the time we end up opening, 6 months down the line, we're like, no, it did not turn out as good as we expected it to be. And then something which is like a dark horse, it turns out to be like a gold winner. So you absolutely still go ahead and execute if there's a passion. Of course, strong finance control is all a part of it. But don't hold back and just keep going around in the paperwork. Here, you just stuck here.
So just go and execute.
Maybe yes, maybe not. Go and execute it. The market will let the market tell you, give you the feedback.
Perfect. Anyone else?
I'll just add that this is an industry where you actually sleep and leave on your toes, and you're almost on the cliff every single day. The most difficult industry to be in. Industry I came from, I thought was difficult. This, I believe, is 10 level up. Second point on the same point will be, in this industry, capability is overrated, execution is underrated, and I believe this is an industry of absolute sheer focused execution. So if you have it, do it. If you don't, excuse it.
See, the best execution part is, major role plays in the F&B basically. As you tell, the execution is always the comes down, but the customer satisfaction is a day-to-day task. It's like never-ending process. Customer palate always wants something new to them, different, fresh, everything. It's a daily process which you have to follow. It's not, only control of the finance. Finance, as you told, it will come back. But the daily process which we need to follow always.
Excellent. So what I can, kind of summarize is that be very careful with your monies, and you need to have deep pockets. It's a difficult industry. Amit was very specific in saying, no, cloud kitchen is not your way to, to the bank locker. It might look so. It might look very sexy because it's very easy to set up. E-com dal do ho gaya. Yes, Kunal.
I'll just add, have a very strong location intelligence playbook ready.
Excellent. And that I was planning to put under the execution part of it. Very, very strongly, there's an echo in terms of execute. And if I may add, course correct if necessary, right? Cut losses, move on, rather than being, very emotionally attached to stuff. And of course, it's a very working capital intensive industry. And so anyone who's planning to do so, get into it, all the very best. And you obviously have these gentlemen to reach out to for advice. I'm sure you will help all the budding entrepreneurs in this area. And with that, I would like to conclude this. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for that very, very lively discussion.
Thank
And,
you to
hope you guys
Siju. I
liked
think
it.
excellent moderation, and thank you so much for keeping this interactive.
Thank you so much.
That
My
was
pleasure.
really a thought-provoking discussion. Thank you so much for being here with us. Before we conclude this session, we would also like to felicitate our moderator as well as our speaker. But let's get a group picture done. Thank you, Mr. Narayan. I would request you to do us a last favor, please, by felicitating our speaker. Would love to call the names. First, let's start with Mr. Anand. Mr. Prabhu. Mr. Mishra. Mishra. Mr. Bhatia. Amit. Mr. Marchant. And Mr. Bharadwaj. Kunal. Kunal Bharadwaj. Kunal, I would request you now to felicitate our moderator as well. Oh, that's the problem because you can't hear. Alright, but anyways, we are done. So I would request you if you can just felicitate Mr. Narayan. Ladies and gentlemen, once again we can have a huge round of applause. With this, we conclude our session. And once, would like to say something? Would like to use this one? Yes, definitely. Thank you to our esteemed speakers, moderators, and of course our audience for being here throughout. Day 2, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're having a wonderful time at Mapping India. Pleasure hosting this for each and everyone out there. Please have a wonderful time. Enjoy yourself. See you around. Thank you.